Hello everybody and welcome to MACD lecture. So for the people that doesn't know what is indicator mean, MACD stands for Moving Average Convergence Divergence, and that is what the MACD is. So it uses two moving averages of 12 and 26, and these moving averages are set like this as default, and there are some moving averages like any other moving averages, and they are known as a lagging indicators because what has happened has already happened. So the MACD has two components, and the first component of course are these two moving averages of 12 and 26 and the histogram. So for this indicator, the moving averages are some lines that are moving up and down like this, and what is very important to make note of are the crossovers, and I will explain how to use them in your advantage when you want to enter or to exit a trade. The shorter moving average of 12 is the MACD, and the longer moving average of 26, it is called the signal, and when the MACD crosses the signal, then it is time to enter or to exit a position based on where it crosses over to the upside or to the downside. But you can also spot the crossover early if you look at the histogram and look for divergences on these bars on the histogram. The second part of this MACD indicator is the histogram, and these bars on the histogram shows you when we are on the positive side and on the negative side as well. They also allows us to see when the market gains or loses strength as well. Here on the right we have this bar right here, and that refers of how much these bars or columns, however you want to call them, upticked or downticked from the previous one, and the difference between the MACD and the signal moving averages. This zero range right here, think of it like a neutral x-axis, and when we start to uptick to the positive side, a crossover of these two moving averages of 12 and 26 happened, and as well for when we start to downtick to the negative side, a crossover happened of these two moving averages to the downside. On the histogram, we also can find divergences when we start to downtick from the upside to the downside. We see that on the histogram it forms a bearish divergence, and then a downtrend starts, and also for an uptrend we see it right here that we start to bullish diverge and we go from the negative side to the positive side. So it is looking pretty easy, right? Downtrend right here, uptrend right here. Yes, it could be that easy, and let's combine it with other indicators as well in the next examples that I'm going to show you, and see how we can manage our positions with what we learned so far, okay? In this first example, I want to show you when to enter and when to exit a position, combining all the indicators that we learned so far with the MACD indicator. For this setup, I am using Litecoin chart, and I am on 2-hour time frame. First of all, let's take a look at MACD and RSI, and let's find out where is a great entry point to buy this coin. The easiest way to trade using MACD is to buy when MACD crosses the signal moving average to the upside, and to sell when the MACD crosses to the downside the signal moving average on higher time frames. But we will get into more detail in this example. So on the MACD, we see down here that a crossover happened to the upside of the signal moving average, and here we can also see that it starts to bullishly diverge as well. Now let's see if we can find confluence in other indicators as well, and we'll look at the RSI, and we are seeing that it starts to bullishly diverge here as well, where we see this first low hitting 28 ranges and the second low hit 32 ranges, and on histogram we can clearly see that we start to uptick as well. So by looking at more than one indicator, you want to find more advantageous reasons to enter a trade. And for me, RSI and MACD indicators are very friendly and easy to use, and these indicators are very powerful because they allow you to catch good entries and exits in the market. We enter our buy position right here, where we see a higher low on the RSI, and for MACD we see it bullishly diverge as well. And on the price chart, our entry point will be around here at this green candle. So we start to ride it, and in short time after we enter our buy position, we see on the price chart that the volume slowly starts to increase as well, and the candles are hovering in between the moving averages, and the 8, 13 and 21 moving averages are getting closer and closer to the 55 moving average until they actually crossed over the 55 moving average to the upside right here. On the RSI, we also see signs of bullishness making higher highs and higher lows. And on MACD, we see this crossover right here where we switched from the negative side to the positive side as well. So we have a lot of reasons to remain in this trade. On the price chart, we start to uptrend and the candles are well above the moving averages. But let's see what our indicators are telling us in this uptrend, and let's find when it is a very good time to sell. Using MACD, a very simple strategy is to sell when you see a crossover to the downside, but I want to show you that you can sell early and how to anticipate a crossover to the downside of the MACD and signal moving averages. First of all, on MACD indicator, we see that we start to bearishly diverge here on the histogram, and let's draw a trend line right here to see it much clearer, and the MACD moving average is getting closer and closer to the signal line as well. Let's take a look at the RSI as well to find reasons to sell this coin and take profit. In this region right here, and I am going to highlight it with a rectangle, we can see that we hit twice this support of 57 and we start to uptrend, making higher highs and higher lows. And on the price chart we see the same thing, so based on the RSI we have no reason to sell. But MACD shows that we are losing strength and we will wait a little bit longer until we see more signs of bearish divergences. And the first one that we see is right here on the RSI, where on the price chart we are making a higher high, but on the RSI we start to bearishly diverge, making a lower high than the previous one. And that is a signal to sell. And on the MACD as well we start to downtick on the histogram. And that is how you can anticipate a reversal point in the market using these two powerful indicators. So if you have sold here on the RSI, let's see which candle corresponds to this peak. It's this one, and you would have cashed near top. And if you remember our entry point, we've entered near bottom and we sold near top. How awesome is that, guys? So let's see how much profit you would have made in this trade right here. I will take my long position tool and set our entry point somewhere around here at this candle. Set my stop loss slightly below these candles right here. And in this very simple trade you would have made a 26% gain just by using these two indicators and following some simple strategies. As we can clearly see from the price chart, from that peak where we sold, the market started to change direction to the downside, and as well on the RSI indicator we can see that it started to make lower highs, and on the MACD as well we see here a crossover to the downside of the signal moving average, and the histogram we can clearly see that it went to the negative side as well, and it stayed there for a long period of time. Now I prepared for you guys another example of how to use MACD indicator in combination with RSI and exponential moving averages. For this setup I am using Bitcoin Cash chart, and now I am using a higher time frame, and that is the daily time frame where each candle represents one day. Keep in mind that if you are a beginner in trading, higher time frames trades are much more safer than on a low time frame, and I recommend you to use higher time frames if you are not so experienced. So let's take a look at MACD indicator, and what we see is that the signal and MACD moving averages stayed for a very long period of time in the negative side, and that is a good thing because we want to enter our buy position when the MACD is on the negative side for a long period of time. And this setup fits my criteria to enter a trade where I see signs of bullish divergences on the MACD and other indicators as well. So on the histogram we see here signs of bullish divergences, and on the RSI we see this low of 24, and the next one is a higher low of 27, and that forms a bullish divergence on the RSI as well. And that implies that the market starts to gain strength, and I will take my trend line tool from my favorite toolbar for you to see more clear of which areas I am talking about. and to remain highlighted on the chart if you want to look at these examples more times to better understand why you should enter a trade here in this particular region. So we see a bullish divergence on histogram and on Rsi indicator as well, and we will enter our buy position right here where this higher low on the Rsi is corresponding with this candle. And after we entered our buy position, we see on the Rsi that it continues to make higher highs and higher lows, and that is the concept of an uptrend. And on the MACD indicator, we see here a crossover of the signal line to the upside, and on the histogram we see that it went from the negative side to the positive side as well. On the price chart we see here a crossover to the upside of the 55 moving average, and on the volume indicator we can see that we have a huge amount of volume to sustain this uptrend further. So now, because we are in a buy position, we want to sell and take profit when we start to see bearish signs using the MACD and Rsi indicators. So let's take a look at the Rsi, and we see here that this peak hit a very overbought region on the daily time frame of 83, and after a few days we see on the price chart that we continue to uptrend, making higher highs, but the Rsi is telling us that the market starts to lose strength, making a lower high of 77, and that forms a bearish divergence, and that is a signal to sell and take profit. On the histogram, we see it bearishly diverging where we see this high right here, and after that we start to downtick, and now we have at least two signals to sell. So let's look for another one. Another reason to sell comes from the volume indicator, and we see it right here that the volume decreased heavily, and now we have three reasons to sell this coin and take profit. So let's see how much profit you would have made if you played this setup. And I will take my long position tool from my favorite toolbar, set my entry point right here at this candle which corresponds to this higher low on the Rsi, setting my stop loss slightly below my entry point, and you would have sold it where we see on the Rsi and MACD that it starts to bearishly diverge, which is over here, and in this trade you would have made a huge 200% profit by just following some very simple strategies combining 2 or 3 indicators to obtain signals that are helping you to take the best decisions when it comes to enter or to exit a trade. Another setup that I prepared for you is this one right here, and I'm going to present you a quick trade that you could take when you see signs of bullish divergence on the MACD and on the Rsi indicator as well. For this setup I am using EOS chart and I am on 1 hour time frame. So let's take a look at the MACD indicator, and what we see right here is that the signal and MACD moving averages are well below this 0 axis right here, and on the histogram we can see that it starts to bullishly diverge as well. But let's search for another reason to enter a trade. So we will look at the Rsi, and you can see that here we hit 23 ranges of oversold on 1 hour time frame, and it starts to bullishly diverge, making a higher low of 26, and that is a sign that the market starts to gain strength. So we have a bullish divergence here on the MACD and a crossover of the signal line to the upside right here, and on the Rsi we see signs of bullish divergences, and I will take my trend line tool to draw some lines on the MACD and Rsi indicators for you guys to better see of what I am talking about. So we enter our buy position right here in this area because we see signs of bullish divergences, and the moving averages MACD and signal line are well below the 0 axis on the MACD, and on the Rsi we hit 23-26 ranges of oversold, and we see this bullish divergence over here as well. We enter our buy position right here after this candle closed, and we will ride it until we see signs of weakening in the market using the MACD and Rsi indicators. So after our entry point, we see on the MACD that a crossover of the signal line happened to the upside, and the histogram is now on the positive side, and on the Rsi as well we see that we are making higher lows and higher highs, And on the price chart, we can clearly see that we started to uptrend parabolically. Now, a good time to sell this coin is when you start to see signs of bearish divergences, and we search for them on the MACD and Rsi indicators. The first sign of bearish divergences, we can see it very clear on the MACD, where we see this high on the histogram right here, and after that we start to downtick a little. And on the Rsi, we see that we hit at this peak a overbought region of 74, and after that we see the Rsi making lower highs, and that implies that the market starts to lose strength. So when you want to buy or sell, always make sure that you look for multiple reasons to enter or to exit a trade, and you do that by looking at more than one indicator to confirm possibilities, because this is what trading is. It's a game of probability, and you want to enter or to exit a trade when the higher probability is in your advantage. So for our position right here, a good time to sell is right here in this region where we see on the MACD that it starts to downtick on the histogram, and on the Rsi we see it making a lower high. If you look at the volume indicator, we see that the volume slowly starts to decrease, and at these candles we see a lot of rejections from the upside, and for me all this information is a very strong signal to sell. So let's see how much profit you would have made if you took this trade over here, and I will select my long position tool from my favorite toolbar, and I will set my entry point right here at this candle, set my stop loss slightly below this candle, and you would have sold it right here at this green candle, which corresponds to this peak on the Rsi, and in this trade you would have made a quick 14% gain. So thank you guys for being here with me in this lecture, and I will see you in the next one where I'm going to talk about Fibonacci retracement.